Hey folks, it's Chad here at Airstream at Greensboro, and I know I look a little bit different today, but we are starting a series for first-time RVers, and this will apply to probably anyone, but it's also going to specifically apply to folks who own Airstreams, because that happens to be what I own myself. Right here's my 2020 Flying Cloud 25 front bed twin. So this video here, we're going to talk about hitching up, and then also what you might want to check before you leave. And when I say might want to, I'm going to say you should check. So things like tire pressure, torque on your lug nuts, windows, all that kind of stuff. So let's jump into that now. Okay, so right here I've got the receiver part of the hitch. This bigger part here at the back is going to be what we call the shank, and then this is the blue ox head. Now, depending on your setup, you may have a larger one like this, which is going to have a 2.5 inch shank on it, or you may have a 2-inch shank depending on the size of your truck. And the drops are also going to differ depending on your truck and what your truck might need. So this part here, you can actually remove out of the truck, as you can see, and then you're also going to install it in the truck. Now, this is not light, so just kind of know as you go to set it up. Now, when you go to set it up or install it, I like to grab the hitch right here. There's a good spot to grab it. And then I'll grab it here as well. And I'm going to bring it up, and I'll just bring it over and kind of get it in place. Now, something I'll recommend is getting a pin that locks, just to make sure your blue ox hitch that's not cheap doesn't disappear. So again, I'm going to grab here at the front, and then grab just kind of under this part here so I can bring it up and then slide it right in, kind of get it to where it's lined up with the hole, and my pin will slide in. You may have to wiggle it a little bit to get it to go through, and then we can put the lock on the end. And now we've got the hitch in place. Now these, I'm not even sure what these are called, but this comes with the blue ox kit. Carabiner. Oh, okay. Carabiner. These are going to come with the blue ox hitch. You may or may not need to use them. I like to use them because they're just a little bit thinner than this piece here on the actual hitch itself, which is why they're there. So you may or may not need those. So the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and raise the front of the camper up so that the ball can go underneath. With the Demco hitch, you don't actually need to lift this up to hitch it, or to put the ball in place. They actually recommend leaving it down. You can visually see this pop up and then pop down as it goes around the hitch. So now I'm going to go to the truck and start backing up to the camper. Oh yeah. Now, a pro tip: once you're back to where you want to be, engage the e-brake, because it will keep the truck from rocking forward or back, which then gets your ball out of shape. Now, another thing I like to do is to kind of have the ball to the front of the receiver here. That will allow it to latch into place a little bit easier. You can actually see how fast that was. So it's already hitched, it's already in place. Now, an important part of hooking up your blue ox is to raise the truck in the front of the trailer up as high as you can. Go as high as you want to. The higher it is, the easier it is to put the bars on. Now, we've already laid out the bars in place, which is something that Laura and I do when we hook up. We'll have each bar in place where it needs to be. We've got the bar over here as well. So now what I'm going to do is just press the up button and start lifting the truck and the trailer pretty much as high as I can lift it. That feels comfortable. And I will tell you, the first time you do this, the first few times that you do it, it's gonna feel really weird to do it, because you're lifting the truck up and you're lifting the camper up. But trust me, this is what you want to do. You never want to release this to take it off without having the truck and the trailer as high as possible. And I feel like that's pretty good. Now you should have gotten a wrench like this that came with the Blue Ox kit. This is for connecting the chain on. I'm going to walk around and do that side first. So the next thing we're going to do is undo our pin, pull that out. You're always going to load this bar with this shapered edge. So that's the edge that we want facing up. That's going to go in. Put that right in. Just find it. It should be about right there. And then latch that in place like that. And then on your chain side, so pull this lever to pull the pin out, and that allows us to rotate. When we rotate it back up, it's going to rotate in and lock, so now it's not going to move. So we'll go ahead and rotate that down. Now your technician should have told you which chain link you're going to use. Now the rule is you're always going to count from the top down. You're going to place the link so it'll be between the 6th to the 11th. The 6th link is going to be the least amount of equalization, the least amount that the bars are going to try to move weight to the front of the vehicle. The 11th chain is going to be the most amount. Now depending on the truck, if you're towing with a half ton, you're probably going to be more in the 10 to 11 range. If you're towing with a 3/4 ton, you're going to probably be more around 6, 7, maybe 8. And the way that you can tell if it's right or wrong, one, if the truck's not riding level once you put weight on it. Two, while you're going down the road, if it feels real floaty, you don't have enough equalization. If it feels real hard and stiff, you might have too much equalization. So that's kind of the rule to kind of figure that out. So we're going to go to the 6th link because we're towing with a 3/4 ton. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we'll take 6 and put it right into here. So that's the link that you're going to go into that little channel there that will hold it. And then because I've taken all the weight off of the truck, I can just put that in place with my hand. See how easy that was? I didn't even need the bar to do that. Now depending on what your setup is, you may be loading the bars a little bit more, and if that's the case, you can use this wrench to bring it up and to bring it down. And when you're doing this, have a good hold on it so that you can make sure it's not going to pull out from your hand. Now don't use 6 because we use 6. It may be 7, it may be 8. You'll want to make sure you write that down with whatever your tech said. If you don't remember, give us a call and we can remind you. Okay, so we've got the Blue Ox is hooked up. Both bars are in place. The next thing you're going to do is just simply lower the ton jack and put all the weight onto the Blue Ox. So we'll go ahead and do that. Now, while we're lowering this, we're actually loading that bar. You're going to see the bar bend. That's normal. That's the bar doing what it's supposed to do. I do recommend having something like a block or something like this yellow tote, which we sell out of the parts department at the store. And bring the pad of the jacket up as far as it will go. And then this jack is really cool. It has something built in that once it gets to the top, it just turns itself off. So here we're going to now link our chains. You want to do something called crisscrossing. That means the chain that's connected to this side, the driver's side, we're going to actually connect to the passenger side. And the chain that's connected here, we're going to connect to the driver's side. And the reason for that is in the event that something does come apart here, which would require a lot of things to happen, that chain is going to act as a cradle to hold the camper up. That's why you want to crisscross them. And then the final thing that we'll connect, or the second to last thing we're going to connect, is your breakaway. Now this is something, your Airstream is not going to come with this, but you can pick these up off of Amazon. We sell them in the store at Airstream in Greensboro. But this is your breakaway. You want to make sure that this is connected to. And what will happen is, in the event that the camper does disconnect and fully disconnects from the truck, this pin is going to pull. When it pulls out, now our brakes have locked up, and that is to get the camper to stop. So if you've fully disconnected and there's an emergency situation, this pin's going to get pulled the emergency brakes, basically just the brakes are going to lock in place and stop the camper from going forward. That's what that's there for. And then once a year, you want to just make sure that that does come out, just like I just did there, and make sure it seems to be functioning correctly. And then the last thing you'll do is plug in your 7-pin connector. This is going to apply brakes to the back as well as all of your lights, power, all that kind of stuff. And that will just plug right into the 7-pin connector. Make sure it goes all the way in and the lid attaches behind or slides down behind that lip there. That'll help keep it from coming out. So from there, we are going to now move to the second thing I like to check on all of my first trips kind of in the season, and that's tire pressure and the lug nut. I like to torque all the lug nuts to 110 foot-pounds of torque. We're going to move over and do that now. All right, so we're at the tire, we're at the wheel and tire. So one thing you could check that's probably smart to check is your date code. These are 2123s. The first 2 digits is going to be the month and the year that the tire was manufactured. The second 2 digits are the year it was manufactured. You want to make sure you're not going 5 years or older with these tires. Now, I like to run our camper at 65 PSI. You're going to need to figure that out kind of on your own based on your payload. But the 80 PSI, that's right here. So the tire says for max load, inflate to 80 PSI. That's for the max payload that the tire is capable of doing. Most of our Airstreams around 65 PSI is going to be about right. So this is right at 65 PSI. I checked it with our little digital thing. And then the next thing I'll do is pull out, and this was a very inexpensive torque wrench I picked up off of Amazon. So the first thing I want to do is make sure it is set to 110 foot-pound, which I did get it set to that. And then now we'll go right there. That click tells me that it is at 110 foot-pound. That one's at 110. That one is. That one is. And that one is. And I'll do the same thing on this one.
If it's not clicking, what do you do?
Well, if it's not clicking, make sure you've got this set correctly. You could be over tightened. You could be above 110, but it is going to click at that point because you're over 110 foot-pounds of torque. The main thing is making sure they're tightened to at least 110 foot-pounds of torque. All right, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so the last thing I like to do before I roll away, and this is going to be the case for any time we leave either the house to go camping for the first time or when we leave the campsite to come back home, and that is to do a visual inspection all the way around the camper. So what I'm going to look for is to make sure things like the lid to the propane tank is secured, the front solar guard ties are secured, and then things like your latches for your doors. So we've got a latch undone. I need to do that. And I like to lock these two. So I'm going to go ahead and lock that one. And lock this one. And then again, I'm going to keep coming around and check things like to make sure our travel locks are in place on the awning. Lock that compartment door. And I'm just looking for anything that should not be out of place. So for one, I always like to travel with these locks in place so this flap isn't flapping in and out. So there you got your little sliders there that lock those in place. We like to make sure the door is locked. And again, check our travel lock. So we've got a lock undone. So I'm going to grab the awning arm and fix that. There we go. And that travel lock is in place. And lock this down. And then I also like to look into the windows that can open and make sure the locks are in place. And these are. Coming around to the roadside, same thing. I'm going to check these, make sure they're in place, and they are. Check that travel lock as well for the window awning. We'll make sure if you have this for your refrigerator that it's locked, and it is. Make sure our shower, our fresh water tanks are locked. We've got our caps into our tanks. And then again, make sure your compartment door is locked. And these are locked. And then the other thing you want to make sure is your sewer cap is on in place and both of your valves are pushed in and closed. Generally, when I'm outside kind of getting things buttoned up before we head off, Laura's inside. Now I'm going to kind of go over the things that Laura does, and she can speak up if I say something or forget something. But one of the things that you want to look for when you're traveling, before you travel, is make sure all your cabinet doors are down. And then the front one's there. We like to travel with our blinds down and our blinds closed. This is something we like to do. But I don't think that's something you necessarily need to do when you're traveling. And of course, also, she's going to check to make sure all the windows are locked. If the window is unlocked, there's a good chance it's going to open as you're driving down the road, and it's going to break while you're traveling to your destination. Now, the other thing you want to look for is making sure all your cabinet doors are shut, all your drawers are closed, because these can pull out. And there's a lot of force when this pulls out and there's silverware inside. It's just going to potentially pull the whole drawer out. You may find a drawer laying in the floor. Refrigerator, want to make sure those are nice and shut. All of the doors are shut. This is on your shower is glass. If you have an Airstream, now if you don't have an Airstream, it may not be, but you're still going to have some way to lock the door shut to keep it closed. So in ours, it's going to be just this little small knob, travel lock that you're going to lock. And then, of course, you want to make sure, we're going to swing the door all the way around, make sure that you are checking your bathroom. And as we can see, the mirror in the bathroom is open. Now, you definitely want to make sure this mirror is closed, because if it's bouncing around in transit, there's a good chance this mirror will break. And I know that because I've seen them come that way from the factory. We've had one or two that come in and that's broke. And then the same thing down here, we want to make sure everything's off. All of the cabinet doors are shut. And then we'll go ahead and cut some lights off too. Make sure the bathroom door is shut. And then coming into the bedroom area, again, we're going to check all of our windows, make sure they're shut. And then, of course, we like to pull blinds down, make sure all the doors around us are shut. Even this one in the middle, make sure it's shut. And then your cabinets are shut. Now, that's pretty much what we'll do as far as traveling. We like to make sure everything's shut. Your doors are shut, especially the mirror in the bathroom, the shower door, your refrigerator. I forget sometimes what stuff's called, but your refrigerator doors are shut, because those things are going to flap open as you're driving down the road. As we stopped the video, as soon as we stopped it, Laura said, yeah, you forgot to mention a few things. So those things are going to be making sure we don't leave anything out. So anything that can fly, it's going to come off the counter when you're traveling. So you want to make sure you put everything away and it's where it needs to be, wherever that might be. And with our soaps, Laura just takes these basically. They're generally going to be here when we're camping. Just puts them down in here so they're out of the way and they're not going to fly off the counter. That's a project. Don't look at that. We're going to do that later. We'll show you later. And so that's also something you want to look for. Now, like we leave this hanging, that's fine. We leave that hanging, that's also going to be fine. Where do these go?
I can just go in the sink for travel.
Okay. So.
And do you want to mention the stove? And
the stovetop, I almost forgot that. You do want to travel with the stovetop down and put away, because that's glass as well. Now, of course, you do want to make sure the stovetop is cooled off. So if you're going to put it down, let it cool off, because you want that heat being trapped. Now, there's some things like this back here we can leave there, is fine. The dinette table, I didn't mention that. We travel with it down, but I know a lot of people will travel with it up. We generally like to put it down, because then we will set stuff under it and things like that, because we put our camping chairs in here just to travel around with. So those are some of the things to think about when you're traveling. Of course, turn on your lights off so you don't have a trailer glowing as you're going down the road at night if you're traveling at night. So those are the things you're going to want to check before you go on your first trip. Now, subscribe, like everything, whatever you need to do to make sure you see, click the bell icon. We are going to have some videos coming up on kind of that first timer, what I need to know as far as camping goes, which is going to include getting to the campsite, surveying the campsite before you back up, things like how to hook up the camper at the campsite, what you need to have and don't need to have, all of that kind of stuff. So make sure you're subscribed, you click the like button, you click the bell icon thing, all of that good stuff. And I hope you guys are living rivet. I hope you're going out camping in the season. You have a good day. We'll talk soon. Thanks. Bye.